Good morning, guys. I hope we're all sparkly. 5:30 gym session done. Chest day. Chest and a little bit of back, because it's always push, pull, agonist, antagonist nowadays. Why did I hit the gym so early? Well, I've got a busy day ahead of me and I needed to be at the sea for 8 o'clock for our Sunday sea dip. It's always a magical experience, but I needed to put the work in. I woke up with a sore knee and I could have been a little bitch, as Goggins would say, but I decided to get up and hit the gym, because when I get up and I move, I feel better physically and psychologically, because, as I've said many times before, you can't separate physiology from psychology, and you can't separate psychology from physiology. No matter how much you try and talk about all your problems, if your physiology is not functioning properly, you stand no chance of resolving your issues. So with low testosterone, we know low mood, anxiety, depersonalization, fatigue, brain fog. All these seem like psychological problems, but you can't separate the two. And if consciousness is anything, it's the subjective appreciation of subtle change in physiology. So let's get back to training. So what's it all about nowadays? As I said in the previous video, it's about form and function for what? Longevity. So I'm focusing more on athleticism, not brute strength. So it's more supersets, giant sets, and understanding that, are we bipeds or quadrupeds? Bipeds, which means we've gone from chimpanzee to upright, which means we should be working more on our posterior chain, not our anterior chain, like all those 16-year-olds doing their biceps and doing their chest. Now, it's not to say I wasn't guilty of that when I was young. Chest day, every day is chest day, but I actually prefer the harder workouts. Now, I can't do legs, which is disappointing, and that was my perfect workout because it's hard, real hard. But yeah, it's about pushing yourself, but pushing yourself properly, concentrating always on form. So my training now has been adapted for purpose. From a testosterone perspective, testosterone will hopefully prevent sarcopenia, which is muscle wasting. But you still need to be physically active despite having testosterone. But let's take a little bit more of a deeper look into that, because testosterone, as we've said before, is your primary anabolic hormone necessary for growth and repair, and it will help facilitate recovery from activity. So everything goes on. There is no time for inertia. Movement is life. Time will pass by. What are you going to do with that time? Sit on your ass and do nothing? That's going to help you, isn't it? So be physically active, because the last thing I want to be is so immobile and incapacitated that I get admitted to a nursing home, I get woken up, I get bathed, I get taken to the sitting room to watch TV with all the other gimmers, and I have my lunch, and then I go back to the sitting room, then I have my tea, and then I get put to bed. I can't think of anything worse. Live fast, die young. No, live properly, lead a productive life. That's the secret. And now we have wisdom, don't we? The foolishness of our youth, the invincibility of our youth. We're paying for our past indiscretions, but it is what it is. We're all walking wounded, so it's about moving forwards. And yes, so now it's all about athleticism. So it is supersets, giant sets, but concentrating so much more on form and function over brute strength, because it doesn't serve you very well. You see all these monsters, they can't run 5k. Their cardiovascular systems are compromised because their muscles are too big for their physiology, for their genetics. And you can't maintain or sustain that size without pumping in more testosterone and anabolic steroids. And that is going to place more strain on your cardiovascular system. It's going to place strain on what? Your joints, your tendons. All of these bodybuilders have secret surgeries. And there's a disproportionate amount of bodybuilders that have problems with what? Their health. Because they're not healthy. They are not healthy. So why are we aspiring to be like these guys? Is it because they're different? Yeah, they're unique. And sure, I want to look bigger than the next guy. But as I said in the previous video, the only person I'm actually competing with is myself. I can't be the size of a giant if I'm not a giant. I'm not a giant. I'm only 5'7", but I can be athletic. I want to keep going for as long as possible. Now, as I said in the previous video, my knee's knackered, and I woke up today with a sore knee. And I thought, yeah, what am I going to do about that? I'm going to get on with it, because I can whine and moan and say my poor knee and feel sorry for myself, and it's not going to help me. It's not going to help anybody. No, I'm going to get up and I'm going to move. Movement is life. It's so incredibly important that you realize that, because we place a lot of emphasis on psychological therapies, not realizing we're physical beings. Sometimes it is just about concentrating on the moment, because when you dwell on the past, as Lao Tzu says, you're depressed. That doesn't mean you can't try and resolve things that happened in the past, but when you dwell and you dwell and you dwell, does that always serve you? No. So it's concentrating on the moment and being mindful of the future. So we let our emotions dictate our behaviors, which is perverse. Our behaviors should positively impact our emotions. Because as I've said before, we're physical beings in a world full of psychological stress. So yeah, things have changed because things have to change. The invincibility of youth, you were not invincible. Your body gave you hundreds, if not thousands of chances to do the right thing in every aspect of your life, and you chose to ignore it, or you didn't have the education and knowledge to know what you should have done. And as we've said before, we live in a perverse world where we're overstimulated, oversaturated with nonsense, and we live in this world complicit to the machinations of whoever's in charge. But no, it's about autonomy, taking control and taking personal responsibility for your actions right now. What's happened in the past, you leave that behind. Let's concentrate now on the present, but being mindful of the future. So physical activity, it's a necessity. A necessity. So get up and be physically active every day. Use those excitatory neurotransmitters and cortisol, and then balance it against the testosterone and the parasympathetic nervous system. Because you have to go earn your reward.